And now.
So my name is Brent Huffman, and I'm the director of Saving Mes Aynak.
So now your film is about a dig in Afghanistan, and can you describe how did you find out about it, and how did you get access to it?
Boy, two great questions. So I initially read a New York Times story in 2010 that basically stated that the U.S. military was helping this private government-owned Chinese company to set up a copper mine in Logar province. And the story stated that basically our government was protecting them and helping them establish a base. And that story just struck me as really bizarre. And I'd been interested in China and China's presence in Africa, China's presence in Pakistan. So that was my initial sort of point of entry, is this story. And it was only later that I found out, in addition to this kind of bizarre story of our government helping this company, this Chinese mining company would have to destroy a 500,000 square meter, 5,000-year-old ancient city in the process to mine $100 billion worth of copper. So it's the kind of story that just gets more and more complex as you sort of learn about it. I sometimes think of it like an onion that you sort of, take off a layer. There's sort of more and more underneath, more and more underneath. And then access. This is a film that shouldn't exist. Like in the early stages, so I started the film in 2011, and everybody told me no. And I even met with the U.S. Embassy in Kabul, and they told me, "Don't make this film. This is not a film, and no one will talk to you about this. The Chinese will never talk to you. You'll never get access to the site. It's too dangerous. All these things." And then the U.S. Embassy then sort of blacklisted me and made sure that anyone that was connected to them wouldn't talk to me on the film. So you see that title card at the end that says, this sort of list of people: U.S. Embassy, UNESCO, World Bank. Nobody would talk. Nobody would agree to an interview. To get access to the site, I actually just so I'm a filmmaker of one. It was me and a translator. I just rented a Kabul taxi and drove out to the site. I did have to get police permission, so there's sort of security checkpoints that you'd have to get permission. So every time making it to the site was really extremely difficult. And now that I have two kids, it seems insane that I did it this way. But yeah, just driving down these desert roads in Taliban country to reach this Mes Aynak, this ancient city.
Now, how many times did you visit during the course of the filmmaking?
So I'm also a professor, so I teach at Northwestern University, so I couldn't just sort of embed in Afghanistan. But what I did was, since 2011, I made six different trips, about 3 weeks or more each trip, where I try to access the site as much as possible. But I could never stay there. Like, I couldn't live there. It was too dangerous at night. There was no security. So it was really a film that just exists because I wouldn't give up on it and keep pushing to access the site, keep pushing to access interviews, and trying to do it any way possible.
So in other words, this is more like one-person journalism than actual filmmaking.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, right. One person that wouldn't give up on a story, even though all the factors, the danger, the no access, I've made a lot of enemies, a lot of threats making this film.
How do you fly into Afghanistan?
Yeah, so you have to get a visa, which is relatively easy actually, and you fly into Kabul, and then you're basically you're on your own.
So there are direct flights, or
not direct flights, kind of nightmarish flights. There's a flight into Turkey now. You fly into Turkey, and then the next day fly into Kabul. But the Kabul airport has, I think just a month ago, had been infiltrated, and I think 3 Americans were killed inside the airport. So it's that kind of situation.
Now, how did you feel when you were invited to visit the Chinese mining operation?
Yeah, so I wasn't invited. Yeah, and you can, if you know this, once you watch the interview, you can tell, you can feel the tension that the head of MCC, the China Metallurgical Group Corporation, this Chinese government company. In the interview, he seems kind of tense, and he's looking down a lot, and he's actually looking at an approved government answer list. So to interview him, we had to get a question list approved from Beijing. My wife is Chinese, so she basically had to translate this question list. We had to email it to Beijing, to the Chinese government, and they have approved answers that he could give us on camera. So he's actually reading, he's looking at this sheet, and he's reading answers that he's supposed to give. And you can kind of feel that in the interview, like he's kind of speaking in sort of a robotic, you know, mining sort of jargon kind of way. And that interview was just extremely difficult to get access. And it's too bad because I wish, you know, the Chinese miners that live in Logar province, I would love to have told that story and interviewed some of them, because they're basically just, you know, these immigrants living in this extremely isolated, you know, there's nothing around. They're living in this compound, kind of dead center in Taliban country. You know, so I would have loved to get their perspective of what it's like to be in the country and just how surreal that must be, but it's just impossible to get that kind of access.
Now, there's been a lot of reports, especially the idea of Chinese controlling certain metal markets.
Yeah.
Did you get an idea that this is less of free market and more like a military strategy, that this mine has to be for the Chinese more than anything else? Or?
Boy, I mean, that's a complex answer. So on paper, there was an open bidding process for this, I believe in 2009, and this Chinese government-owned company supposedly outbid other, like I think there was a Canadian company, there was European companies. But I think the reality is that, you know, Afghanistan is one of the most corrupt countries in the world, and China just bought access to this. And they have a long-term strategy. There's supposedly $3 trillion of natural resources. And that's what's, in terms of the future in mining in Afghanistan, what does, you know, what's the kind of end game that this film kind of suggests is that, you know, Afghanistan could be, you know, home to these just enormous toxic craters left over from mining, you know, sort of all over the country, mining this $3 trillion worth of resources, and that, you know, heritage sites, these Buddhist cities, these incredible sites will all be destroyed. And, you know, perhaps the Afghan people will realize too late what was really lost, and, you know, how are we going to live in this country that has been sucked dry of all its resources and now has this environmental catastrophe. History is being completely erased. You know, what's Afghanistan going to be in that end game scenario? Not sure if I answered that.
Well, no, you did. I mean, but it is a case where, especially as you said, that you're looking at history being erased. I remember, you know, before 9/11, there was people were all upset, and the UN was upset when the Taliban went in and were destroying Buddhists.
Yeah.
But you really don't seem to see the same amount of official outrage at, hey, you're going to wipe out basically your own version of Pompeii for what?
Yeah.
You know, and they're not their jobs. They're not going to bring in the money goes to China. The jobs are going to be Chinese. You know, you're in worst case scenario, you're sweeping. You know, there's nobody there who's going to be getting that extra education and become the star of the universe or master of the company or something out of Afghanistan.
Exactly.
You're just a colony.
Yeah.
You're a mineral plantation.
Yeah, and you see, you know, it's kind of shocking to me in the film. The deputy minister of mines says, so the Chinese are going to give us, you know, millions of dollars. And he says something like, everyone will see a share of this. You divide this money by the population, and that's what individual Afghans will get. He actually says that on camera, and it's crazy to say that and to think that, but a lot of Afghans do. They think this is our way out of 3 decades of war, will China's the savior and China's the solution? And I mentioned, working in China and Africa, China and Pakistan. I mean, China's in South America, China's in the United States, they're in every country. And there's a honeymoon stage with China where China promises the world. And I think Afghanistan's in that stage where, China is kind of telling them and making these promises of things that they want and telling them things they want to hear. Someone in a high-level Afghan that works in the mining sector of the government told me off the record that no one but China would give us an $800 million gift in addition to the proposed amount of money. And clearly that $800 million gift is a bribe. I mean, that's what it is.
Otherwise, everybody else would have thrown it into their package.
Yeah, right. So China's promising the world and really bribing, paying off all the right people. And exactly like you said, I think, Afghanistan, the Afghan people will maybe realize too late that, their version of Pompeii is just gone. And when history is gone, it's as if it never existed in the first place.
Being the filmmaker on the location,
yeah.
And were there other people filming also around you or not?
No, never when I was there. But there have been other journalists that have covered the story. I mean, thank goodness it hasn't just been a total black hole. But I'm shocked at high-level people that work in cultural heritage or people at UNESCO. When I talk to them, they've never heard about this. It's the first time they've heard about it. Me telling them. So I don't think the media is quite reach the people of these media stories. And you sort of mentioned in 2001, the Taliban blew up. They actually blew up the Kabul Museum, which you see in the film. They blew up these 6th century towering Buddhist statues. And that did, the blowing up of the Buddhist statues, that did get the world's attention. The world sort of gasped and was like, oh my God, how could this happen? And we see this with ISIS too. ISIS in Mosul in the museum, taking sledgehammers. And the world gasped and is like, oh, why didn't we do something? But I think my fear is that when there's time to do something,
we got better things to do.
We got better things to do, yeah. But we'll all gasp in horror when Mes Aynak is, the dynamite is set up, and it will. That's literally what they'll do is they'll blow up these temples and Buddhist statues, and that's when people will say, the cynical part of me believes that's when people will say, oh God, this priceless heritage. Why didn't we stop this? And then, it's over.
But coming back to you filming at the location,
yeah.
Did you feel almost a more greater necessity to document, to get these images, to show the
yes.
The intricacy and the beauty of these just delicate things that have been uncovered? Because you get that horrible sense of 2 years from now, this is all that's going to be, is what I tape.
Right. Yeah. Or even end of this year, like it could be the end. And I would hate that to be the outcome, that the site is destroyed, but definitely while I was there, I was thinking, this might be the only visual record of what was discovered here. And not only that, not only like the statues, the manuscripts, the temples, but also the Afghan people, to document that. I think the stereotype of Afghanistan is very negative, but in the film you see that no, you have people that aren't being paid, that are under great threat of constant bomb attacks and kidnapping and just constant threats. You've got these amazing Afghan people that are risking everything. They've got kids, they've got families, risking everything to save this cultural heritage that the world seems to not care about. And I think documenting both the discoveries and the effort of the Afghan people, I think, was most important. And I hope the film kind of reflects that.
I mean, the film, not to give away the ending, but ultimately there is no ending at the moment. It's a call to action film.
Yeah.
How are you stepping it up to make sure that people who need to know are going to be knowing about this event, as far as even archaeological society, National Geographic
Yeah.
You know, where are they at this? Have you approached them?
Yeah, so I have, and you know, the big problem that, well, I should say, Al Jazeera America, Al Jazeera English will broadcast this in the summer, so that there is a broadcast plan, but you know, honestly, PBS, National Geographic, Discovery Channel, a lot of those, HBO, a lot of those outlets weren't interested because there's no American. There's no kind of main American character that's the face of the whole film. Honestly, so really bluntly, people would tell me there's no white American male telling the story. So we're not interested, and the reason they're not interested is because Americans will not. They feel Americans will not watch this film, will not tune in. To kind of fight back against that, I did do a shorter version for the New York Times. Like I was interviewed on CNN and on PBS NewsHour. So I've tried to not sit on this and get the story out, at least in like little sort of call to action bites. But in terms of getting the film out in the form that it is, it's been really a challenge.
Yeah. Now, you with Chanticleer, that's Steve James's outfit, right?
Yeah, Cartemplin.
Yeah.
Cartemplin came in, and they've been amazing, and I really couldn't do a lot of this. They came in kind of at the outreach distribution stage, and I couldn't do any of this just myself, you know. So, yeah, luckily, the whole film was kind of made, you know, kind of me against the world doing this, but then they, you know, got a MacArthur grant. Cartemplin came on, and we were able to do a lot more.
Cool. So it will be out on Al Jazeera television this summer?
It will be. It'll premiere in, I think, July 5th.
And are you at any other festivals across the country coming up?
Hopefully it'll be at AFI Docs, but I haven't.
You haven't heard it? Okay.
I haven't heard it yet.
But keep an eye out for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you so much, and it's an amazing film, and it's something that really needs to be addressed.
Thank you.
As it shows free market versus the history of your country. And these are same countries who years from now are going to be complaining that their national treasures have been stolen by other countries.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
You know, and yet they're destroying their own. So it's kind of the sad part.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, thanks.
Great. Thank you.